Altcoin season is right around the corner, and there are 5 quick, easy, simple steps that you cannot skip out on in order to make millions with altcoins this coming altcoin season. If you do not use every single step that I am about to talk about, then you might as well just give all of us your altcoins. Like, seriously. Because you obviously do not care about making any money. And as fast as you're about to make money this coming altcoin season, you're just as fast about to lose it. So listen up and let's get into it. Now, first off, I just want to start off and talk about your seed phrase and your private keys. Most of us store our private keys offline, and I want to make sure that you're doing the exact same thing. The ultimate key to protecting your seed phrase when you're in crypto is to write it down on a piece of paper. You might want to split it up into 2 pieces, so have half of your seed phrase words on one page, half of your seed phrase words on the other page. You want to put those 2 pieces of paper in their own separate Ziploc bags, and then have those 2 Ziploc bags in a fireproof case. And then you want to take those fireproof cases and put them in a safe, and then you want to obviously have those 2 separate safes in 2 separate areas. In the event of someone trying to steal your crypto keys, they'll only be able to find half of your seed phrase, and in that time you can transfer your funds over into a new wallet and set up tighter security. Now, in the event of a fire, you want to have that fireproof case, and in the event of a flood is why you have that Ziploc bag. And if you want to go one step further, you can even go to shop.ledger.com and buy an engraving tool where you can engrave your seed phrase. You can go on the site and check it out for yourself as well. And you can also get these little metal capsules that'll also allow you to store your seed phrase. Now, this is one of the biggest mistakes I see made when it comes to storing your keys, because a lot of people keep them on their computer, and even though it's not on like your Gmail or something like that, you don't want to trust that anything is on your computer, because if your computer ever gets compromised or you ever download malware unintentionally onto your computer, there goes all your crypto assets and all the effort you put into building your crypto portfolio. If you keep them on your phone, that is one of the worst things you can possibly do, because if anyone ever gets access to, let's say, your phone number or your Gmail and has control of any of those things, they can easily find a way to take your assets and log into your Coinbase accounts and log into your Kraken accounts or whatever you have. And that is one of the ways a lot of people lose their crypto. And one very key and important thing that I'm going to touch on later in this video is how to use your hot wallet effectively. Because in no way, shape, or form is a hot wallet as secure as a cold storage device. So I want to touch on that later in the video. One thing that we need to remember is that a lot of the work is done before we even make the big money in crypto. Even if you're starting out with $100, that $100 has the potential to be tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, just 5 to 10 years down the line. So you need to treat your assets as if they've already hit the 6 or 7 figure mark. And one of the ways that we do a lot of that protective work before we actually choose to invest in any assets on crypto is we come over to a site like this. Now, this is D.5 for those of you who don't know. Now, D.5, there's a lot of use cases for this site, but there's one thing in particular that I want to show you today that I use it for. Now, if you come over here to the bottom left-hand corner with the scanner, right? This scanner allows you to scan the contract address of any token on chain. So if you put the token address here on this search bar, you'll be able to see all the vulnerabilities with a particular token in the code. So if it has things like a dump risk or rug pull activity, it'll even show you if a token has the top 10 holders holding a large percentage of a particular token. So this app is extremely useful. So for the purpose of this example, I want to use Aerodrome as an example. So I'm going to copy the contract address from CoinGecko. Let me just show you that quick. So we're going to come down here, copy the address from CoinGecko. We're going to make our way back over to D.5. We're going to paste the contract address in the search bar, and it's going to give us a score. So 94%, and it has a safety score and a DeFi score. And it's also going to tell us all the things that are either right or wrong about Aero, right? So checks off a ton of boxes. The only one I saw is that it's mintable, which is understandable. You have to understand that there's still Aero left to be put into circulation, which is why it's quote unquote mintable. And you have to also understand that there is no real max supply. So theoretically, they could just continue to print more Aero if they wanted to, which isn't really a good thing, but it's one of the more reputable tokens, especially on the base chain. So that's something that didn't really bother me that much. But if that is something that would bother you, this app is going to tell you exactly what you need to know before investing your money and what you're okay risking, right? You can also come down here to the right-hand side and see as well that the token holders, the top 10 holders, other than the actual contract address itself, which is 49%, it's actually spread out pretty well. So nobody holds a real significant amount of the Aerodrome token. So this is one of the things that I use before I invest in a token, just to make sure that I'm making a proper investment from a rug pull or a contract code standpoint. Now, similar to D.Fi, we have rug check, and this is simply the D.Fi for meme coins. This is going to tell you if it's a rug pull or not, and this is actually the biggest thing that'll save you if you choose to dive into the meme coins and all that kind of stuff. So we all know that Pump.Fun got released this week, and people have been accusing Pump.Fun of being a rug pull. So what we're going to do is put it in rug check and see for ourselves. I haven't done this yet, so this is completely on the fly, and I'm going to assess this token. So currently looking at it so far, we start off in the left-hand corner. It's going to give us an overall risk analysis, which says danger here, which is pretty alarming already. But let's go through what it's actually telling you is going on with the Pump.Fun token and the smart contract behind Pump.Fun. So low amount of token holders, which is not really a good thing either. That means concentration of the token holders that do hold this is pretty high. The top 10 holders, ownership is extremely high. And there's a single holder with over 45% holding this token. Now, the problem with meme coins is that a lot of the times these tokens are easily dumped. So about 45% at the moment is locked with the Pump.Fun team wallet. Now, I don't know when this token is going to be unlocked. I think that'd be something, or some of the research you'd have to do on your own, because that is a big factor. Let's just say this token release was in about 3 months from now and the team was able to sell. There's a good chance it would dump a large percentage of the tokens on you, and this would definitely affect the price negatively, which is not good. Now, one of the things that tells me this is completely a rug pull is when I look at the amount of LP locked. Less than 1% of the liquidity is locked. And this week I also heard that they only put about $5 million in the liquidity to be used to be traded back and forth. And the token was sitting at over $1 billion. I think it's at $1.4 billion in market cap. So understanding that if you want to sell large amounts of this token, you wouldn't be able to do so because there's no liquidity to do so. And at any time, they could just completely rug the liquidity pool, draining you of all your funds. Right? Because when you buy Pump.Fun, let's say for Solana, you give them their Solana for Pump.Fun. So they can go and just sell off all of that Solana because none of it is actually locked, right? None of it is actually locked in the liquidity pool, which is why for me personally, I use things like rug check. This is why I use D.Fi, because I need to know these things before I decide to give these altcoins and these companies my hard-earned money. I'm just not going to do it. Now, this one is actually useful if you've already bought an altcoin or a meme coin and you're kind of like a little shaky on it. You didn't use rug check, you didn't use D.Fi, and you're like, I want to know what's going on with my wallet to make sure that my wallet and my funds are secure. So you come on over here to revoke.cash. Now, revoke.cash is going to be able to connect your wallet. You can see here in the top right hand corner, and you're actually going to be able to check all of the tokens that have access to your wallet. And we're actually going to watch a little video here as it goes through to show you what I mean by all of the access to your wallet. So you're going to connect your wallet here, MetaMask, whatever you're using. Connect, obviously you're going to allow permissions. Now, pause. I'm going to go back just a smidge. You can see here, let me go back a little further. You can actually see here that these are a lot of the tokens that this wallet is personally holding, or that they have interacted with in the past via a dApp, of course, right? So if you look here, they have the value at risk, and this is broken down per token. So if you weren't going to revoke the access that this particular token has, you would have about $3,700 at risk, right? And I'm not going to go into my own personal wallets because I don't want to dox any of my assets, but I want to explain to you through this video. My own personal wallet at one point had a lot of these random tokens here, like you can see here on the side, that had various different values at risk. And about 4 years ago, when I found out about revoke.cash, I've never, ever done a transaction or a swap or connected my wallet to a dApp and chose not to come here after. I always, after I learned about revoke.cash, I always took the time to come here after and go in the top right hand corner, go through all the networks that I have connected on my MetaMask or my wallet, whatever you're using, and go through all the networks and check and to see all of the different tokens that have access and approval amounts to my wallet. And I simply go over here on the right hand side and click revoke, and you pay the gas fee. and it'll revoke the access it has to your wallet. And it's literally as simple as that. Now, to add on to the last point I was making, after you bought a token, you kind of want to do some extra research to see if it's something you should be holding long term. You can come over to a site like cryptorank.io, and cryptorank.io has a ton of functions, but what I personally use it for the most is the vesting tab. Now we have Moonwell open. Now if you click the vesting tab, you're going to be able to see the token unlocks coming for Moonwell. So not only do you get a nice breakdown here of where all of the different Moonwell tokens are throughout different rounds and the teams and the founders and the public and all that good stuff, you can also go down to the schedule here, and I usually like to click the chart, and it tells you literally day by day the unlocks for something like Moonwell. You can see it up until this particular month has been tapering off towards the top, and the inflation is beginning to slow down a lot for Moonwell. There's actually no inflation left for Moonwell, which is good things, because when it comes to having a token that is fully diluted and having a ton of its tokens being locked up, in this case, you want to make sure that you're not going to have massive dump risk. Like for example, if there's a token that I'm buying and I see that next month there's going to be 30% of it being unlocked, maybe I might want to wait till maybe that unlock happens or a little bit after that unlock happens just to see the price dump, maybe 2 weeks to a month after the unlock, before I choose to invest, because I don't want all these new tokens coming onto the market to affect my buying price and my buying opportunity. And something else that can affect the longevity of a particular token is the token holder growth. So I use a site called Token Terminal, and this pretty much shows you the token holder growth for a particular asset over time, which is Moonwell. Generally, you want to see the token holder growth continuing to increase. That means interest is continuing to increase for a particular token, which is always a good thing. Now for Aerodrome particularly, they have a site called Dune.com, and this has a lot of analytics as well. This is more so making on-chain analytics look very clean. And something I want to point your attention to is the TVL growth for something like Aerodrome, and you also want to see the swap fees, how much revenue they're generating. You can come onto Dune.com to do all of that as well. Now, to keep my promise, and this is something that I told you I was going to talk about at the beginning of the video, and it pertains to hot wallets. Now, one thing I need y'all to do from now on, from this point forward, is to make sure that when you are connecting to different DEXs or different dApps across crypto with your particular hot wallet, you do not use the hot wallet that you store large amounts of your assets on. You create a dummy wallet, preferably on another device. So whether it be another laptop, buy a cheap $200 laptop that you use to do all of your swaps and your trading and so on and so forth. And then you keep another wallet, which is on a separate device, where you house all of your crypto assets, or at least a large portion of it, if you don't have a cold storage device. Now, when you have that particular device in that hot wallet, if you want to, let's say, spend about $1,000, you send $1,000 to your dummy wallet, and on that dummy wallet, you do all your swaps and your trading, whatever, and you send that crypto back to your personal wallet, and you keep this one offline. So it's almost acting as a cold storage device, and you're using the dummy wallet more as your hot wallet to do all that fun DeFi stuff that we love to do. That is all for me today. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.